I'd like to call to order the Village of Beverly Hills Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, April 22nd, 2026. Lydia, will you call roll, please?
Of course. Chair Westerland,
Here.
Vice Chair Dillard-Rousseau, Secretary Copeland,
Here.
Mr. Campbell,
Here.
Ms. Erickson, Ms. Harper,
Here.
Mr. Lucas, and Mr. Trust.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a few folks who are absent, and they have been excused as they provided notice to the village. So I'm looking for a motion to excuse Robin, Jeff, and Elizabeth.
So moved.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to approval of the agenda. We have agenda before us. Looking, if there's any changes, let me know. Otherwise, I look for a motion to approve the agenda as is submitted.
I will make a motion to approve the agenda for April 22nd, 2026 as submitted.
Fantastic, I have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. We have before us the meeting minutes from the March 25th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting. Hopefully you've had a chance to review those. If anybody has any adjustments or recommendations for changes, let me know. Otherwise, I look for a motion to approve them.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the regular March 25th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to item number 5, the public comments on items not on the published agenda. If there's anybody here from the public that wish to be heard, seeing none, we'll move right along. Old business, we have none. Moving on to new business. All right, new business tonight is a sign permit for the Detroit Country Day School / I should say, sign/scoreboard.
Yes.
But, so, Susie, would you like to read us in a little bit on this?
Yeah, this is the continuation of this project, right, of the overall athletic complex project improvements. We had originally seen a scoreboard proposal back in January, which seems like a really long time ago at this point, but, and there was a lot of comments and discussion about the lighting for that proposed scoreboard, as well as noise considerations for the neighbors. I mean, and as you may recall, this scoreboard it's currently in the southwest corner, and now they are proposing to move it to the northeast corner. So we had a lot of discussion about noise and sound and placement and size, and ultimately, and they were required at the January meeting to come back with a sound study. And ultimately, Detroit Country Day chose to separate the projects so that the scoreboard consideration did not hold up the remainder of the project. So what we have before us tonight is their new scoreboard proposal. All right, so as a refresher, right, here we are, the athletic complex for zoned RA, or R1, I'm sorry.
Michael.
This is, so the existing scoreboard is right over here.
That's not OSHA approved.
Yeah,
There's a ladder back in the office.
yeah, Mike, do you want a ladder? Because we could do that.
We've done this before.
Perfect. I'm glad you chose not the swivel chairs. That would have been my choice, but anyways.
Well done.
Bravo. All right, so the existing scoreboard is over here. They are proposing to locate, where'd my mouse go? What the heck? I swear. Of course. All right, so the mouse is not working for me, but The proposed scoreboard is, like I said, going to be in the northeast corner. It is approximately, let's see, can I work this part? It's approximately 162 feet from the center line of the road, and about 158 feet from the property line over on Lasser. Okay. The results of their initial sound study did cause them to change their proposal, right? So the original proposal had integrated speakers, and they are not going to do that any longer. They will be upgrading their existing speaker system. So that is no longer part of the consideration for Planning Commission this evening. I did provide you with the sound study because they did the sound study. It was a requirement. And really, we want to make sure that we're, one, being consistent, and two, being transparent and doing the things that we said we're going to do. And so here we are. Again, this is just a little bit more detail on the location, right? So just under 30 feet from the end zone, and about 15 feet in from the corner there. So, Brian, anything I haven't covered yet that I should be covering?
I think, Mr. Chair, for the commission's consideration, we did ask the petitioner to give us the information on the existing scoreboard, so you had a method of comparison. So that is one thing I think we wanted to point out. The existing scoreboard is 300 square feet in area and does have a height of just about, I had it noted as 22 and a half feet, so a little over 22 feet. So in comparison, this is bigger and it is taller. So I think those are a couple of points that we wanted to give you something to have an apples to apples in terms of what's there versus what's proposed. I think procedurally is the other big thing. So the only reference in your ordinance to athletic field scoreboards is in the sign ordinance. And it isn't even, it's kind of a regulation, but it's a strangely written regulation, to be honest. What it is there's an exemption for athletic field scoreboards when they meet certain conditions. Now, in this case, this proposal does not meet all of those conditions, which is why we've brought it before you, because the de facto idea being that it's not exempt. If it's exempt, they'd be fine if they met the standards. They don't meet the standards, therefore it's not exempt, therefore it's in front of commission. However, we don't have any other standards to apply to give you additional, review criteria. So similar to how we handled the sign package last month, again, myself, Susie, circling in with Kristen, the village, remember where I am today, the village attorney, sorry, I was in a township this morning. We did feel that this was another one of those scenarios that fit that sort of catch-all, that where we have a sign that's not defined, that it has to come before Planning Commission to get approval before it can be installed. So we're following a similar path, at least that's what we're proposing. So that's what's before the commission this evening. Petitioner did provide, and I think Susie's got a handful of pictures and some of the graphics in her slideshow here, which I think you have in your packets as well. I think with all of that being said, similar to going all the way back to January when we started conversation about this, we can set aside the noise as a concern. I did have a couple of other, potential concerns, or at least items that I wanted the petitioner to address for your consideration. The lighting was another one. There is a lighting study that's provided. There's a lighting, very detailed lighting plan that was in your agenda packet. It did show that light, in terms of the foot candle illumination pattern, would be contained on site, and in that northeast corner would be pretty heavily buffered by the tree line that sits around the school property and the inside of that intersection. But I think a couple of other things that we wanted to at least have the conversation about tonight were potential off-site impacts. One being the relocation of the scoreboard and the increase in height and what potential impact that might have, not on property, but off-site. And then tying into the lighting plan, while the foot candle measurements are all in order in terms of light spillover along the property lines, there still is going to be some amount of light exposure or glare that there is potentially going to be visible from eastbound to westbound. Did I get that right?
Eastbound.
Eastbound, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, directionally challenged. So that was kind of another thing. So we did get what I thought were some pretty good comparison information from the petitioner. These were all things that we asked for as part of the review process. So part of my review letter, sort of the tail end of it, gets into the fact that the field does sit quite a bit below the level of the roadways. So if you're looking at the front of the property, field level is several feet, 13-ish, where am I at? About 14 feet below grade elevation of the road. So a lot of that extra height is somewhat absorbed by the grade differential, but it will still set, where did I have the math here? Roughly 17 feet above that grade elevation along 13 miles. So that was something we wanted you guys to have something to, again, have an understanding of what it might look like, what the impacts might be. Keeping in mind, again, very heavily treed area in that northeast portion there that I think will probably block the views of most of it. There were some, did you get the photos in?
Yeah, let me,
We had a number of photos that were, that the petitioner provided, kind of depicting that tree line, which, in my opinion, I think in the, when those trees are all in full bloom, it will pretty much block out views of that scoreboard, at least in terms of the structure, not getting into the lighting component, but the structure itself, I don't think you'll even see. Once we get into late fall and winter, as you can see here, you can see through the tree canopy, so you certainly will see the scoreboard through that tree canopy. Just a question of how impactful that is, if at all. It may or may not be. I think, just my opinion, I don't think the height is that big of a deal in relation, because we do have the tree canopy and we do have that pretty big grade differential. What I was hoping that we could get from the applicant was kind of a rendering of sort of superimposing that scoreboard in there to get some ideas, but understanding that that's a very difficult ask. So we didn't get that. But I do think that's something, again, I want you guys to think about. And then the other thing that I guess I'm going to look for the petitioner to speak about, and they did bring in the actual scoreboard consultant. I don't know what the right terminology is. You can introduce yourself, but they did bring the scoreboard expert. We'll go with that. So I'm hoping he can kind of address a little bit what is my bigger concern, and that is the potential with sort of the glow and the glare and the light visibility, not necessarily what the illumination factor is, but the actual visibility for traffic in the roadway traveling towards this sign. And ultimately, I want to make sure that whatever happens there isn't going to disrupt or be any form of safety hazard, or have, again, kind of the way we've been treating these different types of signs is there an off-site impact? So if you'll recall, a lot of the conversation last month was those signs are internal to the site, not visible from off-site. They have no off-site impacts. Really want to make sure that if you're going to consider granting this, that we're fully mitigating any potential off-site impacts with this relocation, increase in size, increase in height. So it's a very long-winded way of saying a couple of things, but hopefully that makes sense. And I'm happy to take any questions you may have. I don't know if you have anything else to add, or we can turn it over to the petitioner.
Thank you, Brian. All right, so yes, if the petitioner can come up and tell us a little bit about the project and any other information you want to add on top of what Susie and Brian has given us, that'd be great.
Okay, I'm Scott Stanley from Detroit Country Day. Yeah, I mean, the project is a game changer for us, and the scoreboard's just one part of it. We're trying to move away from the analog style scoreboards, and the digital one not only provides, good entertainment value during a game, but the scoreboard also allows us to to use this as a component in our educational process. So our IT department and some of our faculty are already involved in developing programs so that our kids can use this during a game. They'll be doing slow motion replays. They'll be working on stats. They'll be doing different things to create, some of the graphics and that kind of thing. And so that's really one of the big things that we're excited about at the school level, is that it's going to become a program that will go way beyond the field itself. We also hope that by moving the scoreboard down to where it is and facing it back towards the interior of the campus, that there's less impact than, say, where our scoreboard currently is, or, say, the Grove scoreboard, which faces out to 13. So.
Anything else, Scott?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Okay, I guess at this point, I will bring it back to the table, unless, if you want to explain.
So, Scott wanted me to come in and be able to answer any questions as well. So my name is Chris Kern. I'm the owner and CEO at Digital Scoreboards. So I have came in front of commissions like you more times than I can count around the country. So happy to answer any questions. I know Brian had asked about light bleed. So our team did do the light study that is in front of you, that you're seeing on the screen here, which does show that the light is contained to the interior of the campus. As you travel down 13 Mile, there will be essentially very little, if any, impact on traffic. So the board actually has built-in illumination control. So as the sun sets in the community, the board also dims itself automatically. So in a night environment, so if Detroit Country Day is playing a night game, the board will operate at about 4% of its total brightness of its available brightness rating. So the board will automatically do that by itself. We also have the controls remotely to control that from our network operating center as well. In the event that that the school needs us, or the photocell component has isn't responding in the manner in which it will, they can call our network operating center. We can dim the board. So the board will brighten as ambient light comes up. It will dim as ambient light goes down as well. So truly, knowing how far the setback was, when Susie showed the measurements from the setback, there will be essentially no impact to 13 Mile Road, given how this board is angled. There's also a reason that we did that as well, aesthetically, when we were working with landscape architects in the school, is how we turned the board to bring it back. The board has a 140-degree viewing angle. So if and we can even close that even tighter to make it as little as 96 degrees. So 140-degree viewing angle. So as you're traveling down 13 Mile Road, if you start to look at at the angle in which you will be driving, you will essentially be at less than that 140 degrees. So you'll have very, very little impact on that board. I'm happy to answer any questions on the technology or the software or the educational piece of the puzzle as well.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Any others? Before I bring it back to the table? I can bring it back to the table.
Mr. Chair, do you mind if I ask a quick question?
Oh, certainly.
Chris, just a quick question for you, too. So with respect, that viewing angle thing is very helpful. I appreciate that. Is that something that is fixed with the installation, or like this is what they buy and this is what's installed, or can that be adjusted once it's already been put in place? And where I'm going with this, Commission, is it something that, if granted, understanding that the 140-degree viewing angle is theoretically not going to have an impact on traffic, but in practice, it's approved and we find that it does have a little bit of an impact, is that something that can then be adjusted to kind of reel it in to the point where it no longer has an impact?
Yeah, I'm going to answer that. It's a great question. I'm going to answer it in a two-part question. I'm going to answer it based on the structure itself, the steel structure, but also the LED component. When I said that it can go from 140 to 96 degrees, that's a product. So right now, the product that's been specified at Detroit Country Day has a 140-degree viewing angle. So that means there's a plastic louver on the top and the bottom of the LED, but there's no plastic louver left or right. So that allows the light to spread to that 140 degrees. That is our most popular package in a football, soccer, stadium, lacrosse field, hockey around the country. When you go to a baseball stadium where all of your fans are traditionally in third and first base side, looking straight at the board, we put a left and right shader or louver on it. So now you have a louver around all four sides of the LED, which brings that viewing distance in and cuts it down to 96 degrees. So that would be a product perspective. If the commission said, hey, we're willing to grant this, but we want that closed in, then we can certainly work with the school. It will not have a negative impact on their operation. From a board. Next piece of the puzzle, as you're looking at the photo on the screen, one of the reasons that we build on steel monopoles versus putting 4 beams in the ground is because we can turn the board. So give you an example, Springdale Public Schools in 2024, we went in, we built a board. About 3 weeks after the board was installed, the superintendent called, said, hey, I'd like to turn the board 5 degrees closer to our home stands. So we go in with a crane, we pick the board up, and we literally turn it 5 degrees, and we set it back down, and we bolt it back in place. Long answer to your question, Brian, but it can be done in 2 ways. It can be done structurally or from a product perspective.
Thanks.
Stole my thunder.
Sorry about that.
Well, it's all right. We're all going to get there. It's all good. Sorry, I'll bring back to the table for any of fellow commissioners to have any questions for applicant, Brian, Susie, whomever you like.
Just a quick question for administration. Did you guys consult with public safety at all about the?
No, actually.
Anyone else? Any questions? Comments? Otherwise, I'll jump into mine.
After you.
I guess, Scott, maybe you can help me out with this one. So I saw the elevation demarcation for the roadway. Where was that taken? Because I'm looking at your previous package, kind of at the base of the intersection where the traffic light is. The grade elevation there from an earlier document, one of the site surveys, was 687, so 2 foot below at that intersection. And I know that road rises up as you come up towards, it goes as head east. So I'm just wondering, in Brian's letter, I think that was that identification was 704, if I remember properly. So I'm just wondering where that 704 was taken from for a comparison standpoint.
Rich Hodak from Grissom, Metz Andrews Associates. So we had taken it off of an Oakland County survey map that we had received, so we were we didn't have anything perfect, but it was a guesstimation of kind of where that was at, so.
Was that the intent then, is to get it towards that intersection, or was it halfway up the roadway?
It was taking the grade elevations that were, and I don't know if it's on one of those drawings or not, but it was basically taking on roughly where the contour elevations were shown on that Oakland County map that we were able to get. We didn't have a surveyed area of that zone.
Yeah, I think that was the engineering plans that we had looked at previously, maybe. Maybe. There's been a few plans.
Yeah, I'm going to make Susie, I don't know if you have it available from the January 28th meeting. That's where I have the 687 demarcation right at the intersection of 13 and the drive to Detroit Country Day. So that's why I was kind of curious as to.
680, so that's what you're, 687, you're at the 13 in entrance?
At the entrance.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The entrance road that goes up, right.
Yeah, you're going up quite a bit.
At 687, and then the base of the pole on the field was 689, right? That's what I'm seeing, and then, so that's why I was wondering where the 704 was taken, because.
That was more up at the
That'd be
Lasser 13 intersection.
Yeah, the 704 was up there.
Yeah. Yeah, we weren't basing it off of the entrance point. We were trying to look at was relative to, because you're up at that higher elevation there, and that was, we were taking the look from, was because you're up at that corner, at that intersection. So that's where kind of where a lot of the photographs were taken from, was around Lasser back to, south, and then along 13 Mile to the west.
Yeah, so
Down to a
that
point,
gives
so-
the perspective of the height of the sign relative to that intersection.
Correct.
So that gives you the perspective, but we're seeing the backside at that point,
Exactly.
right? I was looking at it from perspective as I'm driving eastbound along 13, I'm coming off a hill at Georgetown, and I'm driving down, and then I'm back up, so trying to see that perspective of where does that sign sit as a driver eastbound, because that's where I'm gonna be impacted by the illuminance of that sign. And it's not, that's not measured by foot candles, because foot candles is a measure of the light hitting the ground at a certain distance. This is gonna be the light that you're visually seeing as you're driving up, and trying to understand how much, based on the angle of the board, of how much you're gonna see. And I thank you for the description of the 140-degree angle. So that's kind of like, this rolls into the other part of that, is looking at the two plans that were submitted. Yeah, that's the one I was looking at, Susie. The two plans that were submitted, the one that's with the digital board is in a different angle than the one that's on the, I'm going to call it the architectural site plan. So I'm just wondering which one of those two are we leaning towards as to a direction? One's a little more directed straight towards, like the center of the board is right at the center of the press box, and the other one's a slightly off of that center. So I'm just trying to understand, because that's going to depend on the 140-degree angle, that spread, and then the potential for visibility for drivers heading eastbound.
I'm going to have to let the scoreboard people answer that one. So for the actual angle, that'll be.
Yeah,
that'll be
and
true, so.
that's what I was just kind of looking at there.
But
I think it's the next page, Susie.
Yeah, I'm going slow because it doesn't, apparently the internet doesn't like how fast I can go.
Should just cast mine.
It's a long-standing problem.
probably that one. That one would have more, That might have
It's
some
that,
great
yeah, it's that one over,
information
just
there.
moving to the left. Keep going. Oh.
she fell in the ditch.
Keep going, and you'll be there.
And I can answer, I don't know if I need to go back to the vote, we're just having.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, we're recorded, otherwise I'd be comfortable with you sitting
Yeah,
down
for sure.
and having a conversation.
In fairness, and this is what happens a lot, we went through this recently on a dark skies situation in Colorado where we literally had to come in and turn the board to get it to a point where there wasn't, illumination that's going to bleed onto the road, even when I'm driving down the road, right? If you have to rubberneck to look into the field, you're going to see kids playing on the field a lot more than you're going to see that board coming at you. So the beauty is, and that's what I just talked to Scott before I step back up, we can truly turn the structure in a manner in which pretty much eliminates that concern as you're coming, down the road that way. Because, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, you're having stands on one side of the field, correct?
Yeah.
So since there's only bleachers on one side of the field, we can truly turn the board and give the viewing distance, and we can, obviously this is a school decision, but if they want to cut it to the 96 degree viewing angle, that also brings that much tighter into the space as well. And it becomes more of that baseball type of effect that I mentioned, where you're looking straight at the board because you don't have to have as much angle inside the playing surface. So that board can be turned in really as tight as they want it to the home stands, which eliminates it from looking at the road at all.
I appreciate that, because I think that your diagram has the center line of that board kind of, I'm going to plan west of the press box area. So the center grandstand's a little west, the center line of that is a little west. So if it's a little angled more towards the center of the press box area, it's going to cut that down.
If you look at, Susie, can you pull up the rendering where it shows like the field, the overlay, and shows the board in the corner? Yeah, so.
This one?
Yeah, that's perfect, thank
Yeah,
you.
that one has a better angle.
Correct, and so you could even, and once again, I'll defer this to Scott and his administration, but as you look at the DC-DS end zone, if you can kind of think about the board sliding, in this case, kind of up and left a little bit, like a little closer towards the road. But at the same time, you turn the board back towards the homestands. Because it's, quite frankly, there's a lot of schools that are in their scenario that put it at the 50-yard line.
Yeah, that's what I
And
was
just
gonna
look
say.
straight across the field. Like, we do that a lot. I'm not trying to change the design in any way, shape, or form, because I don't want to step over. But I guess the moral of that is there's so many ways to eliminate the concern of the committee and honestly of your residents that you would never see the board if we just kind of massaged it a little bit in that corner. So Scott, you want?
Yeah, I mean, we want to hit,
Tell me where you want to go. I can drive this mouse just about anywhere.
so obviously, like, this is the bleachers, these are the home stands, so we definitely want to
Okay.
get them. Eventually, we want to have an alumni area down here, so that we want them to be able to see it. And then, of course, it's important that the players can see it, but otherwise,
Well, that's helpful, Scott, about understanding where the home stands are.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, architecturally, just going center of press box area, that's where the majority is.
yeah, I mean, we're kind of shooting over here to get these.
And I know we did you have all those improvements to the plaza area.
Yeah, I will say the most popular design in the country for a high school stadium like this is to line it up with the opposite pylon, which is basically kind of what we attempted to do, and shoot it at the opposite pylon from the opposite corner. So if you kind of think about where the scoreboard is currently proposed, normally that would open up just a touch more, which would open it up more to the roadway. In this case, we tried to close that and bring it more towards, kind of that front edge of the end zone versus the back edge. So, but that's kind of gives you a little bit of rule of thumb, but the board can truly be kind of turned any way that the committee would want.
And the other thing is I was thinking about this, and truth be told, I have a lighting group in my office, so I peg them for some questions and answers. And so I appreciate the auto adjustability of the brightness levels with the ambient light, so that's very helpful. Just for reference, they provided me some information on highway signage. So the Department of Transportation, there are signs that they put up that may illuminate themselves. They have a range between 34 is really low nits, up to 310, I believe. And this scoreboard's at 200, that's what I'm reading
Yeah,
correctly?
so it's going to
That's
depend at night. Correct.
And that's all white light.
Yeah, that's all white, and you're never going to run this board at all white ever, right? That's when an LED goes to full white, that means it's burning at 100% of its intensity, but you can dial the brightness down. So it fires at 100%, but then you dim it down, and so it kind of gives it that dull hue, if you will. And so being that it's full color RGB, the board is going to, at night, it's going to fire at about 4% of its total brightness. So on the high side, you're probably 300, but you're probably even lower than that when all the dust settles. During the daytime, it will produce less nit than sunlight. And so at that point in time, it just dulls into the rest of its surroundings.
And that's the other thing that I don't know if this takes into account in your calculations, but the field's going to be illuminated.
Correct.
At the same time, because we have new light fixtures going on the poles that are going to illuminate the field. So, we're looking at one piece of information of light from the scoreboard, but
I do believe
we
that there's
can't look at it in.
I do believe there's a slide in this presentation that gives you a comparison between light standards and the video board. Yes. Thank you. That's perfect. So this board will produce substantially less light bleed than light standards, even with, are you guys putting in Musco lights or R3 or Acuity? Okay, Qualight. So as they put in Qualight boards, which is a dark skies product, right? So this board will produce less ambient light into the playing facility than the actual light standards that they're putting in. So both foot candles will be much greater with the light standards, as is the ambient light. So the light bleed that comes from the light standards around the field will be substantially higher than the video board in itself.
That's a good reminder. I should go back and look at that. But let's see. other aspect of that? Oh, and the trees. So, looking at that, walking that carefully along the roadway, I think it was one of your previous additions or renovations, we planted those pine trees along the roadway. And I think those are an excellent screen to it, because when you're down the bottom, that angle of which you're going to look up, those trees have grown to a nice height that provides good blockage. It's the deciduous trees beyond when you get past those pine trees. Because those deciduous, like right now, they're not even leafed out yet. And I know we've had soccer and lacrosse going on, and I can expect that into the fall we'll have leaves dropping before the football season's over. That's typical. So that's my concern is, I think that those evergreens provide a nice screen. It's the rest of this portion that, albeit I'm not expecting any sports in the winter, it's the shoulder seasons, early spring, late fall, that'd be concerned. Scott, maybe you know this answer, and it was, what is the height of the light poles? And you're trying to get a,
For the project, but yeah,
They're normally somewhere between 65 and 72 is a normal, kind of a normal, are you going with the precast?
they're existing.
Oh, they're existing, okay, well, I can't answer that.
That's a tough one.
I was swinging in the dark there.
Couldn't see it in the lighting calcs. But I was trying to use that as a reference of how tall, because this sign's 32 feet, 31 feet. Trying to get a reference to where that is in relationship to the height of the lights that are illuminating the field. Because, that, again, I try and understand that you can have this overlay of light. And I'm just throwing this up for conversation for the rest of the commissioners. Because we had, it's page 48. Yeah. If that's the January one.
That was that first page.
I just didn't see a height on it. They provide the calcs.
Yeah,
But I mean, in general, I understand that there's kind of that overlay of light. It's not just a sole light source that's out there. My biggest concern is really about people coming down from Georgetown, bottom intersection, and coming back up, what that bleed is. And there's a little more comfort level with the idea you can rotate it. Is there anything between the 96 and the 140? Or is it that as a product line?
It's how we engineered the product, yeah.
Just understood.
Well, absent the ability to physically turn the board, you can actually get in between there.
Correct.
Right.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, from a product perspective, you're 140 or 96 based on how the actual LED is manufactured. We can spin the board however, the school and the commission so desires to eliminate any potential light bleed onto the road.
A very odd question while you're taking a look at that. So the new board is being moved within the track, and the existing board was outside the track. Is it too close? I mean, it's 29 and a half feet from the middle of the board to the end zone, and keeping in mind of the board, I mean, you're like 17 feet from the back of the end zone. On perhaps a general concept, and maybe this was raised in a prior meeting and I missed it, but I I mean, 17 or like 16 feet from the back of the end zone, that's not very far.
Yeah, believe it or not, it's actually, there's a significant buffer zone there.
Okay.
We just built a board in Whiteland, Indiana, that was 48 foot wide and 30 feet tall, so more than twice the size of this
Yeah,
one.
that's massive, yeah.
And it was 6 foot beyond the end zone line, in the middle of the D zone where the track is. And so it really comes down to personal preference. I will tell you, and I'm not trying to stroke the school here, but they were mindful when they started engaging us on the design. They were mindful about where they wanted to place the board from this conversation. Because originally we were looking outside the track, which puts it a whole lot closer to the street. There's a lot less elevation decline when we did that as well. So when we brought it back in, it started to line things up a lot better. And
Helped with the elevation, helped with the shading. Got it. Yeah, that
so,
makes sense.
actually, I do think the design, the size and the location is really indicative of the type of stadium that they're building.
Fair. Thank you very much. Sorry for the question, I guess, inside the track, but in the right field as well, so.
I guess follow-up, that top 4.5 foot band, what is that? I'm assuming that's not
It is
illuminated.
not digital. That is an ID, that's a non-illuminated ID panel that just dresses up the top of the board. We do that for a couple of reasons. One is it also cuts down on the light bleed this way.
Yeah, sure.
Right? So you put that top panel on the top, which is non-illuminated, so as that light starts to come off the LED, it starts to die there, versus going LED all the way to the top.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Appreciate that.
You guys have clearly put a lot of thought into this.
We do about I think we did 370 of these last year around the country, and so you get every question at this stage. Right?
Do you have any
I
local?
appreciate it.
We do. Immediate local, I was just telling them, I mean, this isn't terribly local, but we're doing a big project at Grand Valley State University like today. So I almost went there before I came here today if I could have got in time. But I'm trying to think around this immediate area. Yes, but it's going to escape me. I think we have 1,300 installs, and they're all like, people say, well, what's your favorite one? It's like, do I have a favorite kid? And the answer to that is no. I like them all, but we do have, I don't know, we're probably at 40-something projects across the state right now.
Nice.
This is impossible to find.
Yeah,
like
stop
this.
it. You're going to drive yourself crazy.
It doesn't show. I've looked at it.
You could have stopped me earlier then.
Well, I cannot find it. Unless Rich wants to look at my,
Yeah, well, I just came up with one. We did Lawrence Tech.
Lawrence Tech.
That's,
A number of years ago. That was an early install, I don't know, probably 2017, maybe 18. We did Lawrence Tech's football stadium.
I think the biggest thing is this, and as I was standing out there, I'm really working to visualize the height of the sign. And that's the toughest thing. I look at the building and I don't know, that building, I thought I came up with this like 26, 28 foot tall, the building right there alongside. I know it's up on the track and you can drop down, but that's 32. So I'm trying to get this perspective. The 17 foot, if it's from the intersection, the 704 is from the intersection, we're 17 foot above the intersection. Now I'm looking back, I'm thinking about, all right, you've got I don't know, I think we've got a 4 foot sign out there out front. And then what's 17 foot above that? So just trying to get that visual impact of this sign. And, the backside, I guess I'm not too concerned. Is it finished? What's the backside look like? Is the backside finished?
The backside is just solid. So you're going to have a black steel, structure coming up. And then you're just going to have, basically, there's no exposed wiring, anything like that. It's
All
just,
monolithic, one color?
correct. Yeah.
Okay, so it's as if I've got a piece of metal siding on the backside,
Kind of like,
a sign box.
I would say like the arms of the chair is about the color of the back.
Oh, it's a gray?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like a light gray. And we did that. We switched that up going into 2026. It used to be black. It was all black, but it attracts so much heat.
Yeah.
And these boards are, this is a 20-year life cycle product. And so we went to a lighter color, so it dissipates heat a whole lot better and gives, Scott and peers like him longer longevity. Did we mention that or not?
Yeah.
One thing to consider, so we build it's like a Lego kit, right? So this is like it's truly like building a Lego kit. So we build these things in essentially 3 foot by 3 foot building blocks. So when we initially proposed the sizes to Scott and the administration, we gave them two options. This is option one that they fell in love with. Option two, which is actually our most popular size for high schools nationwide, is we eliminate 3 foot of height in the video board, but we add 3 foot of width. So you add a cabinet in width, but you take a cabinet down in height. So essentially, square footage stays pretty consistent, but it lowers the height by 39 inches to be exact. So I wanted to consult with Scott before I brought that up, but from a commission's perspective, if height with the grade change is of concern, as you mentioned, coming down from Georgetown and looking at the road, we could lower this board 39 inches and increase it by 39 inches in width, which gives Scott, basically what they're still looking for. But it does lower the board an extra 39 inches in height. So that'll be a commission and a school's decision, but from our perspective, there's options here that we can kind of cure some additional concerns. Because at that point, now you're looking at, instead of being 31.4, essentially you go to 27 and change.
And you're 15, less than 15 above the roadway at the top side.
Yeah.
You're 14 and a half or
And
something.
then as you look at the canopy of the trees and some of those things aesthetically, now you really start to kill some of those concerns.
Yeah.
But then you're wider, and it projects out wider to the roadway.
But if I spin it, but if I turn around and spin it back, then you're not going to know.
I think that incremental, because it's 39 inches split halfway because you're going to both sides,
Yeah.
that incremental switch is, what's that?
20 inches.
20
just call it,
inches.
yeah.
I don't think that, I think we have to be careful about turning too much, because then now we're impacting Lasser.
Right, well, that's
So that's the other thing.
defeats the purpose of the board, too. I mean,
Correct.
But, that's the whole idea. Even if we thought about putting it at the 50-yard line, now we have to be concerned more about Lasser and what that bleed might be.
Right.
But you do have, the commission and the school working together, you have that option as well, which would maybe minimize some of the concerns that have been shared.
I don't know if I'm as concerned of the height as to the bleed. So I think, at least from my perspective, I actually feel comfortable with the height and a taller, more narrow versus squattier and wider. At least that would be that's my thoughts as we look at this. I get the grading, I get the elevation, but it's taller. That's.
Yeah, I guess I look at it because of the tree line. When you come across here, the tree line does a pretty good job in trying to gauge the height against the poles and how much of the pole you see. You're halfway up on the pole, you can see. So that squattier perspective, I think, would alleviate some of that. And I don't think that width will impact any more or less, any more to that 140-degree angle. Because the angle doesn't change, it just moves over 20 inches in this drawing. So, and however that angle is positioned, the angle of the sign is positioned, that's what it really comes down to, I think, is really that study of where does that 140-degree play, the northernmost angle of that intersect with the roadway.
The angle of the sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. So the light, that's the viewing distance. So what I mean by that is if you're looking at that TV and you walk to an angle one way or another, you'll start to lose the visibility completely. So it's at 140 degrees. So picture that being the scoreboard at the school. If you're on the road driving here, when you get at 140 degrees, the whole entire thing washes out and it becomes black. Right? So the other option is you kill it at 96 degrees, which is even much greater, where you lose it even quicker.
And right now, that represents 140. The yellow band.
Correct.
Is the 140
You
degree
got it.
angle, right?
That represents, oh, I'm sorry. So, yeah, so the light's going to come off at 140 degrees, and then you'll see you're starting to lose it at, like essentially point, whatever that is, 0.17 or point.
0.107.
Yeah, 107. So, you're losing it quickly. Now, if the concern is where I see that road that kind of comes onto 13 Mile, and then you start to head down the road, there are obviously trees there from a block perspective. You're going to have essentially zero light bleed onto the road at that point.
Oh, Scott, you plant some more evergreens. Yeah, our bleed, from just going back to the field and the illumination of the field by the field lights, yeah, we had no bleed off essentially from the field. I mean, with the LED technology, it's just directed to the field surface. I've spoken enough. I'm going to open this back up to, I know, Ashley, you were going to have a question until I rattled off into a bunch of things.
Just one question for the applicant. So was the sign that you have depicted with, and I think you talked about this maybe in January, was the idea to have this running all the time with like different players and statistics?
Only during a game.
Okay, so during the day, like when you have in this photograph, you wouldn't have during the day like different students or athletes on the board going?
No.
It would only be utilized and illuminated during?
Yeah, it would be sports specific for that event, for that game.
And then it would turn off?
Yep.
So at nighttime, it's just off?
Exactly. And daytime, it would be off until we had a game.
Would it, like for practices, would it be on?
Mm-hmm.
Best way to put that, it's a really good question because we get it a lot. So this board is ran off of 2 iPads. So the second they turn the iPads on in the press box, the board comes on. The second they turn the iPads off, the board goes black. And then it's not burning any electric, it's just literally, basically it goes to sleep at that point in time. And that's how they would use it.
I have maybe for Brian or Susie, would there be anything that prohibited the board from operating at other times? If Detroit Country Day wanted to have it running at other times?
Not that I can think of.
I think it depends on a couple of factors, what that would be more specifically, and I would say more importantly, what the commission thinks of that idea. Because remember, unfortunately, we put you guys in a position where you're kind of reviewing something without standards, to put it.
But as a reference, we have, our sign regulations require signs to be turned off at a certain time after close of
That's
business.
correct.
And I will tell you that, because I'll be brought in occasionally to do some testifying on behalf of those things for sign ordinances. That's normally how scoreboards will fall. They will piggyback the scoreboard regulation or ordinance with a sign ordinance. So if your signs have to go off at 11 o'clock at night or midnight or whatever it is, right? Oftentimes the scoreboards fall into that as well, because the games are almost always going to be over by that time anyways. So it's not a big deal for the scoreboard company, or in this case, the school, to give up, those rights, because in fairness, they don't, there's no reason to run the boards after hours like that anyways, because they're burning electric for nothing. So at that point, we can kind of fall within a sign ordinance.
That's a good question.
Yeah, and I'm not thinking like just at nighttime, like signs turning off at night. I'm just thinking more during like the day or at any time or evening when people are driving around, that all of a sudden the sign's just like on with some message or showing, different things. And I think personally, it's a huge difference between just only being allowed on at games versus having the option, not that you're doing this, but having the option that could just be illuminated with other things.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for the school, but what most of these schools are using these boards for is practice, because they're showing game, they're getting the boys and girls prepared for their upcoming opponents, so they use it for basically film on the field, so they use it for practice, and then they'll use it for games. Occasionally, we'll see schools use it for pep assemblies. We'll see schools do community, and I'm not saying this is going to happen here, but we'll see schools use like community movie nights where they'll open up the whole entire field and it's free and people can come and bring blankets and sit on the turf and they'll show a family-friendly movie to kick off homecoming or something. We see a lot of those things happen really around the country. These vehicles can really truly bring a community together in a lot of ways, is what we kind of see around the country from different things like that. I'm not saying that that's how they're going to use it, but that's really the way we're seeing these. We're not seeing these boards used as billboards, where they're going to leave it on and just run a bunch of advertising. Like, we're not seeing that really around the country. It's more truly for the school environment.
We've already committed to running no advertising.
I was going to say, yeah,
Right,
that's
but if it's even still, not even if it's not advertisement, if it's just something like that with students just on, this is from 300 to 600 square feet is gigantic. That's a gigantic board. And to have that going all, even sometimes during the day, not during games, that's.
And one thing, in case it helps the optics, if you eliminate the 39 inches of height, and you add the 39 inches in width, you are lowering the total square foot as well.
What does that lower it to?
It shrinks the square footage by 160 square feet. So by going from 39.397 by 25.196, you eliminate, and now you're going to essentially, you're dropping it. I just used easy math, and I just put 40 inches because I didn't want to have to use metrics. But it's basically 160 square feet.
I guess the other thing is, understanding the opportunity to rotate the sign after the fact. I guess I'd want to look at, understand what that process would be, Scott, from your standpoint, from a facility owner, and then, coming out, you got to get a crane to make this happen. It's not a couple guys going up there with a wrench and moving it.
Right.
My encouragement, it's very easy to do. It happens quite often, but more often than we would like it to, because it's not a cheap proposition, right? My encouragement would be is for us to try to find a way to lay the board in there that is amenable to both the commission and the school up front. And if it wants to be, if you need it moved after the fact, it's very easy to do. It's just, we're remobilizing crane, you got a 70-ton crane in there, and especially now you're, being inside the track, we got to have Duradecking and protect all the playing surface, and it's not a cheap proposition. My suggestion would be is for us to kind of find a way to turn it another 5, 7, 9 degrees, whatever it needs to be, because right now is the time to do that.
Well, yeah, or your install, right? The day of install, and I don't know how quickly you take down that crane, but if you install towards it and you check it.
That's actually the nice
Right.
thing, is so the reason we build, that's purely 100% the reason we build on a monopole. Number one is it's faster, and it's a lot cleaner. But the day of install, what happens is we are going to excavate the hole. We are going to drop the pipe in the ground before any concrete goes in there. So there's a crane holding the pipe in the ground, and then they're going to put it there. The concrete comes. As they pour the concrete, we will actually turn the board until Scott and his team, or in this case, Scott and the commission, sign off on the angle. It literally happens on site when we're doing the installation. And that's why, because at that point, once the pole is set, the head plate, so you got a round head plate up there that's got 20 or 30 holes around it for your bolt pattern. Once we get it right, then it's set. But there is that level of latitude, if you will, when we're installing it on site.
It's interesting you pour the concrete afterwards.
So when we pour it while the crane's holding the
Yeah.
pole, when we do that, because we want to, we've had plenty of times where the school will show up and be like, it oftentimes happens with superintendents, they'll show up and be like, I wanted it 5 degrees more, and then it's like, oh man, now we gotta, and you don't want it set in mud already at that point, so or concrete, so that's why we do it that way. We also build on monopoles because it oftentimes blends in with the vegetation a whole lot more than having 4 or 5 beams in the ground.
That install process though likely occurs during the daytime,
Oh, yeah.
right? So I mean, I think at least from Patrick, what I'm gathering from you with like the light lead kind of concept, that's probably a little bit more visible or available in the evening.
Yeah, but I think.
But the height issue would, you could see the height.
I think it's twofold, though. I mean, you got the crane set up that day.
Right.
But they're not gone from the site the next day. There's still a day, so.
Right.
You got to take down and decommission the crane. There's some time there that, hey, if it needs to be rotated, one bolt pattern, it gets rotated one bolt pattern.
Yep.
It's not, I'm thinking of, you're looking at the opportunity that, instead of a callback, and,
We would just spool it differently at that point. Like, we would want to know if that is a desire of the commission, we would manufacture it accordingly, right? So, I mean, we do all of our own steel fab, so we would just want to know, like.
Slide 'em.
Because sometimes it's like, we're not going to spool the whole thing, we're going to put 8 bolts in there, because we know once the lower pole goes in the ground. But if there is a future down the road, like, hey, we might want to turn this thing, it's of no additional cost to the school. We just want to know that we need to manufacture.
you're prepped for it.
Let's see. So where was the alumni little gathering spot again? Is that west end, like little appendix on the track? Where like sticks out?
Kind of like over here, right?
Yeah, so the intent is the scoreboard would be clearly visible to those folks, correct? All right. And that's probably 600 feet away from it? That'd be fair to say?
Probably 425.
Well, I mean, if it's way down there and you're showing an arc that barely hits the 50-yard line at 200 feet, so 500 feet maybe, I don't know. But the point is anybody within that 140-degree angle that is 500 feet away is going to see the giant TV in the sky, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to see it, but I mean, of course, but it would be no different than if it was a traditional scoreboard.
Right.
Because the way that they'll be using it is just like a regular scoreboard.
Right, well, the thing is, it's not like light spillover, it's big screen, right? It's like, I don't know, I'd probably prefer it if the angle was such that it would not ever see 13 Mile Road. And in the same thought process that it would never actually see Lasser. I think there's enough building and whatnot structure there that the people living behind there probably be relatively shielded.
So if you think about that, there's some trees at the west end of the field above the track. But the grade up at the top where that parking lot is, go back and see what that is.
I guess these people right there.
So we get the grade. Oh, what grades? Okay, the grade, kind of, that first entry to the parking lot, when you come up the drive and then you turn right into the parking lot, that's 709. And we're at 689, right? Is that the base of the pole? 689, 709, so that's 30 feet. And if we drop a top panel, then the top of the sign is at the surface of that parking lot.
And it can't be seen.
And it can't be seen. Right? If I'm doing my math right, 689, that was the base. 689, 99, 09. Oh, no. No, 10 foot. I'm sorry. Fifth grade math, didn't get there.
Yeah, I guess it's probably more like, taking the top pen off, it'd look more like the one on page 19.
This one?
You'll see, yeah, if you took the 39 inches off,
You go back to that photo.
That one.
That's
Oh.
all, that's the elevation, you're never going to get here, right at that. That's the west end of the track.
correct.
The driveway is on the other side of that.
So what we're looking at, yeah, I'm looking at is, this is at 689, the base. So the top is, I'm just call it 30 foot higher. So 99, 09, 19, 719, right, top of the sign. And opposite the sign, all the way to the parking lot, as you come into the driveway and make a right into the parking lot, that grade is, call it 710. So the height of the sign is 9 foot above the parking lot surface. So just as a perspective, Charlie, in looking at, impact on neighbors, but then you've got a fence
Yeah.
at the west end, which I believe is like an 8-foot fence. It's not 6, it's at least an 8 foot. So I think that, to your concern, right, is impact on the neighbors, because that's where, right now, the neighbors to the west are not impacted at all by any kind of illumination from,
Probably be like this corner right there
right,
on Lincolnshire, because these folks are kind of blocked
by the building.
There's a building and trees and whatever, but it'd be these folks, and it'd be like,
But it's got to get through it's got to get through the trees that are between the drive and the field, and there are a number of evergreen trees that I had to walk around there. So I think it's pretty well protected, and if we go with if they choose to go with a scoreboard that's 39 inches shorter than the added width, I think we're going to diminish that potential even more so within that evergreen to eliminate or minimize that impact on the neighbors to the west. It's a good call, Charlie.
let's see, the other side of 13 Mile Road is the athletic club. That probably is fine.
You just got the backyards, but then this isn't never going to get to their backyards of the
Yeah,
homeowners.
let's see who else, the Riverbank people, they've got a berm there, I think. Trees, but that's probably pretty shielded.
What are you thinking, Patrick?
My concerns are the influence that the scoreboard would have on drivers eastbound. And as they're driving up, knowing they're not going to have a clear view of it, but lighting at that angle as you're driving up that hill might be a distractive item in your eyes as you're coming up. I don't know the extent of that, though. I don't know how you calculate that. I don't know how you know you're going to have light coming from the field. You have the ambient light of that. I don't know that it's going to be that bad. I like the idea that there's an opportunity, during install, that we can kind of get out there at night, take a look at it when it's going in, just to see, all right, Scott and his team can look at it and say, yes, this is not going to be a problem as he stands in that intersection or drives down from Georgetown to just see how it looks. I think that flexibility in the way they install it is very promising.
we actually, I'll add a little bit of color to that, because it's a really good point. Virginia Tech commissioned a study, I think it was 2008 or 2009, in regards to video boards, scoreboards, billboards in this case as well. And they looked at the distance between the edge of the right-of-way and a board, and when did it lose an impact on the driver, right? And so what I will tell you is we are significantly outside of that halo from the edge of the right-of-way. So if you're driving, I don't know the roads, obviously.
Yeah.
But if you're driving down, from Georgetown, as you mentioned, based on where this board is set back and the angle in which it is, we are significantly outside of the halo that Virginia Tech study suggested has a zero impact to the motorist. And they put cameras in cars, and they did metropolitan communities around the country, rural communities, bedroom communities, and they put cameras in to track eye movement of people while they were driving, both passengers and drivers, and then came out with that report in 2000, I think it was 2008. And I will tell you, we are significantly beyond what will have any negative impact on the traveler coming down at 13 Mile, based on that study.
And then just to follow up, Jared, my other concern is, I think Charlie brought it up, and I didn't think about that, was the neighbors to the west, because of the impact. If we go through those numbers, it seems like a board that's a little lower would minimize that impact to them. In relationship to the parking lot level and fence at the west end.
Sure.
And that's even going to the fact that measuring that height, if we're saying we're 10 foot above the surface, the top 4.5 feet is non-illuminated. So the illuminated portion is 5.5 feet. But if I'm a neighbor, I don't want that, I've been there and haven't been impacted by a scoreboard for all those years and I'd be impacted. I think that's what we need to be careful about.
I guess the size of this just kind of struck me. It's the size of 4 two-car garage doors. It's not small.
No.
Yeah, so.
32 feet's pretty tall.
And I get what everybody's saying, but you're gonna see kids playing football or replays and screens or whatever. I don't wanna sit in my backyard. I mean, I've got my own TV already. I don't wanna see that in my backyard. As it is, I can't stand hearing the Grove's loudspeakers. That drives me nuts.
So is there a concern about neighbors seeing the board from the light study that we did? Because based on the light study that we did, I don't think any of that light impacts any backyards around the school. So I guess I respect what you're saying, and I completely agree. I wouldn't want that either. But I don't think that the design and where this is located would negatively impact houses in the community.
So wait, think about this for a second. If I stand back 100 feet from that TV, clearly I can't read a newspaper from the light, but I sure as hell can see the TV. And that's kind of where I'm coming from with it.
But if you're on the other side of that belt of evergreen trees,
There'll be zero light.
Well, I think we're looking at the west side.
yeah, those trees are on the west side. They shade, they come right up the main drive and cut off the east part of the campus and from the.
Oh, you're
west
saying
parking
that
lot.
this image, this image is not representative, this image actually represents where the current scoreboard is.
Exactly.
That's correct. That's correct.
That's outside the track.
Yeah.
The one they're building is inside the track.
No, when it's the opposite view.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
This is this is west looking, west facing, so.
That's what the scoreboard would see.
If that's, this image actually is showing a scoreboard located in the current scoreboard's position. So the backdrop is, those evergreen trees are the backdrop that are protecting. I see what you're saying. Well, now I understand where you're coming from. It's like, okay, well, we're facing the
Because that alumni center essentially is
Is on
where,
the
is
inside,
on the
yeah.
inside of where that scoreboard is currently being shown. Yes.
And you said if they make it shorter, it reduces the overall square footage by about 160 square feet, right? So,
I wanted to correct that, so I wasn't going to get out of here without doing that. I was actually calculated from the ground all the way up.
okay,
So it is, so if we're just looking at the screen and the non-illuminated panel on the top, that is, it goes 10 feet less square feet, so it's actually 10.9 less square feet. So that's why the board configured-wise gets more attractive if you're trying to eliminate height. You're losing 10 square feet, but I was calculating, when I looked at the measurement, I was going from grade. And so that wasn't fair. So that's why I knew my measurement seemed off when I did that. But yeah, it's 10.9 square feet, just configured differently.
So essentially, it's the same square footage.
Yep. I will tell you from having done this for well over a decade, that seems a whole lot bigger than the second you walk up next to it on a field. You may be like, well, I don't know about that, but I've never had a school say, oh man, we should have went smaller. But I've had literally hundreds of schools say we should have went bigger the second that they see it on the field. Because there is so much massive, expansive, wide open area. You're looking at an 8-lane track. You're looking at 120 yards of turf. You're looking at the greenscape behind it with the trees. I will tell you the school, I genuinely believe the school has thought through every single angle to try to get what they are after, while certainly being respectful of the community. So yes, it is a good sized board, but it is on the smaller side of what we're building around the country right now for high schools.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I have familiar with my high school's school board that's about 310 square feet larger. And it's actually looks small, candidly. Further, a little bit, it's outside the track, so it has to project over.
Yeah, exactly. And if you were to go to Lawrence Tech, which obviously isn't too far away from here, put that in perspective, that board is 15 feet tall and 28 feet wide, plus the truss on top. So it is the size that we would be recommending to the school if they were to take 3 foot off in height and add it to the width. That's what we did at Lawrence Tech. So if you wanted to take a fun road trip or field trip to check that one out, you would see basically what they would be getting.
You got a game tonight? Is that on an 8-foot pole, do you know?
That is on a 10-foot haggle. I think there's 3 beams in the ground, 10 foot from the ground to the bottom.
We already took off 2 feet off our haggle.
We lowered the haggle to try to get under the tree canopy as much as we could.
I would love the opportunity to go take a look at Lawrence Tech, personally, to get in a perspective of proportion to a football field. It's hard to imagine, and I think I'm pretty good at trying to understand relationships of things, but to understand the impact of this on that field, looking at that grade, looking back, I think that's helpful.
Yeah, and theirs is a little unique because I don't think they have a turf. They don't have a track around their stadium. It's just turf, and it's pretty close to the inline. So there's so many optical illusions in this because you could go tour that facility and look at it and be like, oh my gosh, that thing is huge. But you're going to be standing in the end zone looking, and their tree canopy is going to be a little different. They don't have a track. So there's going to be some different elements, and it's a little older technology. But
It's a matter of looking at it from a distance.
Sure.
It's, I know if you go stand up, I mean, I'm 5.5 feet, 8 foot, I'm looking up, the thing's huge when I'm standing underneath it. It's really from the perspective of being across the field, across the parking lot, and trying to understand what, that proportion is. That's my feeling. I like the idea of the reduced height. I don't know if any of the other commissioners have that. I don't know, Brian, if that is something that we feel it's having an updated drawing to provide us the information, if we had the chance, I don't know, Scott, I know that you guys want to get moving on this and get doing work. There's other work that needs to be done that you have approval on. But if there's an opportunity that we can see the updated drawing, the elevation with this, and give us, at least myself and other commissioners, if they choose to look at the Lawrence Tech scoreboard. I don't know if there's any other, but if anybody else has any other thoughts or comments.
I agree with you, Mr. Westerlin. This isn't a small sign. This is, as Mr. Copeland said, this is massive, essentially a television. It's a big deal, and I think that having time to look at Lawrence Tech, and if there's any other scoreboards that are in the vicinity that you could.
yeah, I'll think through. I mean, some of them might take a little bit of a road trip. I don't know if you're wanting to, take a field trip, but I could think about that. Lawrence Tech, given that it's not very far from here, and given the size in perspective of what we're talking about, is the right answer, for sure. We can have an updated drawing back to to Scott by tomorrow morning. That part's not a problem at all. And I respect that, you guys are obviously doing your homework and connect the dots, as you mentioned. I mean, there is a certain, we're at a point where we look at ourselves as advisors and consultants when we work with schools like Detroit Country Day, and when you look at a construction schedule of trying to get holes dug and pipes in the ground and stuff, we're kind of at that inflection moment pretty soon, to be able to, to try to make it as easy on the school as possible. So we will move quick on our side, and we can have you updated drawings tomorrow. You could, treat that as you so wish. I can hook up Scott with the athletic staff at Lawrence Tech, so we can get you guys a tour of that facility. That's not a problem either.
All right, if anybody cares to see, this is 600 feet away. 600 feet away from Lawrence Tech's scoreboard. I don't know how you don't see that.
I don't want to get out there at night when they got a game going on. That's a telltale sign, right?
Keep in mind, that is older technology that does not have dimming devices built into it, so they have to manually dim it. So if their athletic staff is not logging in to do that, it doesn't happen. That board was literally built, pushing 10 years ago, probably 8 years ago, I think, when they redid that stadium.
What's the bottom banner on here?
That's part of the digital. It's just part of the artwork for, it's just showing, the school rendering.
Thoughts, commissioners? I mean, I feel like I need to take a visit to see this and take a look at, if there's even a possibility that, I don't know, people's availability, or at least knowing their athletic schedule out at Lawrence Tech. I don't know if they have any nights games going on, if we can find that out at least
There might be some spring soccer games or lacrosse games out there right now.
Do they have lights?
Pardon?
Do they have lights in your picture?
No, it was taken in the middle of the day.
No, I mean light poles. I'm not sure they even have lights on.
Is it illuminated?
I believe they do, so I work across with Lawrence Tech. They definitely illuminate for games and for,
Night game.
nighttime activities, it's definitely illuminated.
I've got Lawrence Tech's photo pulled up. Their board is, so they also have a 3-foot non-illuminated panel on the bottom as well, which is going to make the board, so their total height of their current board from grade is 10, 13, 16 is 29, plus 4 is 33. So their total board would be 32 foot tall from grade, so about a foot taller than what you're seeing on your screen right now.
They have the 4.5-foot banner at the top?
I do.
Okay. And the only addition is the bottom banner.
Yeah, so
That's-
here's their board. So where it says Blue Devils at the top, that is not part of the video board. And then the Michigan First ad at the bottom is not either.
Yeah.
And then it's just. So they're
But-
roughly 30.
That would be the same as the proposed top?
Yeah.
On that, okay.
Just doesn't have the logo on the
Bottom,
bottom.
yeah.
And it's on a higher, on a, so, but the 10-foot pole goes to the bottom of the, the Michigan First.
You got it. And so, very similar, and width-wise of that board, it's 28 feet wide, whereas this one is, currently proposed at 25 foot 2.
We have a live stream of a men's lacrosse game currently going on.
Let's go over there.
I'm just saying. The benefit of having a live stream is that we can actually just watch it.
Yeah.
Would the appropriate, procedurally, would the appropriate action be to put a motion to table this matter until the May meeting, or an indefinite meeting?
I think that would be appropriate, that we can ask a motion to table to provide additional option for the sizing of the panel, if the applicant so chooses, gives the commission opportunity, if they so choose, to visit the other site. And then we can reconvene and render a decision, I think with some level of comfort, hopefully. I think there's a lot of, I think the concern is impacts on the neighbors. And we need to be careful that we are being very considerate of their, of what those impacts might be. These are my thoughts, Commissioners, so
No, I'll just be brief. I have no problem. I think lowering the height is the right call. I'm not as concerned about the neighbors, frankly, or the light hitting the road based on what the applicant has stated. However, I'm not going to, it is a big sign, right? It is a big scoreboard, so I have no problem sort of making sure we're comfortable, also with the more full board maybe. That being said, I don't want to, I think we should make a decision as soon as possible if we're tabling, right, so.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Certainly.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to table the sign permit, Detroit Country Day School scoreboard. I don't see a case number or a number associated with it, but this matter to table until the May 2026 regular Planning Commission meeting in order for updated renderings for a reduced sign to be provided, as well as time for planning commissioners to view other signs in the area, as well as the Lawrence Tech sign.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Sure, I'll second.
A second by Charlie. I don't need a roll call. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Yay, opposed.
Opposed. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 to 1. Motion carries. Scott, we'll see you next month.
Do you need a contact over at Lawrence Tech?
If you could provide it through to Susie, and then she can distribute it to the commissioners, that would be great. And if, while you're seeking that contact, and, a little bit of a sports schedule would be wonderful.
Men's lacrosse, I know.
Yeah, there's 4 quarters and 4 periods, and there's 15 minutes left of the 4th period if you want to catch it. It's 3.5
And if
miles.
you want to come on campus and, see our tree line and visualize that better, you're welcome.
I was walking around today, hopefully, and nobody kicked me off.
No.
I appreciate that, though. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving along to item number 8, public comments. Seeing we have no public, we'll move right along to liaison comments. We don't have a liaison. Moving on to staff comments.
Not much Not much for me. Next Monday, Tuesday is the American Planning Conference or American Planning Association Conference in Detroit. I'll be there. If any of you are interested in joining me, please do. It'll be a good time. Lots of learning. That is all I have for tonight.
Commissioner comments, Charlie?
I'm good.
Jeff?
None.
Jerry?
None.
Ashley?
No.
I have nothing as well. Correspondence, anything, Susie or Lydia, correspondence?
No.
Okay, looking for a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.